Greetings and welcome to another The Mando Debrief. I think that's what we're calling it. And this time, after my kind of quick sort of reaction-ish review on Friday, the day of the release of the chapter being chapter 13, The Jedi, now I'm back a few days later to go a little bit deeper into the goings-on that occurred during that chapter. And after being joined by Alden Diaz of Acto Radio last week, this week, in case you're wondering who the two random fellas on your screen are, we have Matt and Luke from the Star Wars Sessions podcast. All right, lads.
Lovely to be here. Jamie. It's like Matty Boy said, it's good to be here, mate. I know this has been
two hairstyles.
I know that's it now.
There is a lot of hair on
display here. Matt's going to be going on about that. That's what this is. We're going to be talking about
Star Wars.
Yeah, men's fashion and such. No,
Matt, you know, sit there and play with your porgs, Matt. Luke and I have got hair and Star Wars to sit with. And that guy. We'll get onto that guy later as well. But for our non-British viewers, it probably didn't take you long to work out that we're all Brits. Star Wars Sessions podcast is straight out of the UK. I just assume, because, you know, I'm low in confidence. It's 2020. I just assume that people won't make it all the way to the end of this video. So for now, assuming that they won't get to the end, I'm going to ask you that traditional question that would occur at the end. Usually, tell us a bit about your podcast and where people can find it.
Well, we say that we're probably Britain's greatest Star Wars podcast. We say probably because we don't know and we're probably not. But the probable is there. We talk Star Wars every Wednesday. We put a main show out, 8 p.m. British time, and we cover so many Star Wars subjects. It's full of spice, Star Wars spice, as we'd say. And we're everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We even have a YouTube channel. So if you listen to your podcast, we're probably going to be there. So look for Star Wars Sessions.
Yep.
Beautiful. And
we
Matt.
have our Mando recap every Friday. And like Luke said, we're everywhere. We get as many people on our shows as possible just to, what do you call it, the Bantina. So we get the interaction out there. We love hearing from Star Wars fans, and it's a hell of a time every week.
Yeah, well, I will link to the various things you just mentioned in the video description if people want to go and find your regular Star Wars content there from Star Wars Sessions. But we are here today to talk about Chapter 13, The Jedi, for the next 20 minutes or so. Before we get into like the deets, let's sort of start with the bigger picture, the general picture, I guess, in terms of this episode, this chapter. You, I know, often ask your Twitter followers to rate each chapter out of 10. Starting with you, Matt, how would you rate this chapter out of 10?
I would give it a very solid 8 out of 10, I think. I really enjoyed it, but there's a few issues.
Right, we'll come on to those, I'm sure. Luke?
I'm going to be the same, I think. I'm going to be a bit cheeky and say just an 8.5, maybe, with a little seasoning of, you know, that was really good. But there's a little seasoning of, few worries into the future. But I'm not that bothered about it. 8.5 out of 10, Jamie.
All right. And what would you say when you put that tweet out yesterday, I guess it was, what would you say has been the average score you've got back from your listeners?
The average score is literally about 15 out of 10, isn't it? So many people are coming out saying really? 20 out of 10, 25. Yeah, I think the average at the minute is 9 or 10. The fans that have got back are loving it. Nobody's come back and said, you know what, this was awful, this was really bad. So I think everyone, to a man and woman, is loving this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because even on Instagram, we put out a little poll, and the little heart-shaped face is on this side of the spectrum, right at the end. So people are just absolutely going crazy for this episode, and I think people are just excited. And to be honest, it's refreshing and it's lovely to be seeing Star Wars content that is just so loved by fans, different fans, prequel fans, Clone Wars fans, Mando fans, original fans, sequel fans. People seem to be loving it, and that's so nice to see, man.
Beautiful. Sorry, it's a little flash up on my screen. Just checking we're still recording. I was definitely listening to you as well as panicking about the technology at the same time. So, whatever you just said, I'm sure I agree with. Actually, you mentioned how this episode is, or how this chapter, or The Mandalorian in general, perhaps is sort of uniting different Star Wars fans of different generations. What would be, just so people can get a bit of background on you guys, what was your entry point into Star Wars?
Well, mine was, I saw it as, I think I'm the same age as you, Jamie. I think we're the same vintage. So I first saw it as a youngster, Empire Strikes Back. It was in the front room back home. My dad was watching it. And all of my family have loved it. They all had the toys, or my brother still has an Ewok he goes to bed with, and he's 40. So it's always been in the family. But when the prequels came out, that's my first cinematic experience. We had the special editions of the OT, so they were my first kind of real experience. But going to the theatre, it was the Phantom Menace for me. And
what about you, Luke?
It's kind of similar. I'm a wee bit younger. So I remember seeing the original trilogy around my nan and granddad's house on VHS. And that was kind of like the default thing that would go on when I was round there. And this is a story. I was actually talking to some friends yesterday with my brother on a little Zoom chat. And we were saying how my mum and dad weren't poor, but we weren't rich at all. So when they got a film, like a VHS, it would never be something like a Disney film. Right, it would rarely be that. So stuff like The Lion King, right? I've never seen it. But instead, Mum and Dad would pick up Phantom Menace, right? Because they knew we both liked Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with any Simba or Sumba, whatever it is. I grew up with Watto, like Nubian, all that stuff.
And you've still never seen The Lion King?
No. Never seen it, man.
Well, if you do, you start with the original, the cartoon. Actually, I thought the film was fine, but, the original still. But then maybe that's just because it was a growing up kind of thing. I'm thinking with nostalgia.
And there was no Watto.
Exactly, yeah. Watto, hey? Well, that's another conversation for another time, perhaps. But going back to this episode of the Mandalorian, I still want to sort of skim across the surface. What would be your... we've got the solid 8 from Matt. We've got the 8.5 from Luke. What would be, if you could choose one headline from this chapter to tell someone about, what would it be? What would be your one headline story from this chapter?
I think mine would be Rosario Dawson is a boss. As Ahsoka, she was a boss. I really liked her. I liked her mannerisms. I liked how she handled herself in the costume, how she wielded the dual sabers, little facial expressions. I think she really, really nailed it in this role. And obviously, props to Ashley Eckstein, who obviously voiced the character, but in live action, Rosario is a boss.
She definitely pulled it off. I saw some complaints. There's always going to be these really minor sort of niggly complaints when it comes to Star Wars. I saw some complaining that her costume wasn't quite right. Like, what do you call the sort of, like the tentacle type things? They weren't quite big enough, long enough.
I said the exact same thing
yesterday.
Luke,
you're one of them.
I was like, what are they? What are those things? Like,
you were just struggling to name them. You weren't complaining about the length of them.
I didn't really mind too much. They're called Montrals, aren't they,
That's
mate?
it, Montrals.
Okay.
Matt corrected me. I was like, it's like, in The Force Awakens, Kylo has at the end of it, has like a crazy scar going across his face. And then Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi is like, you know what? Let's tone it down a little bit, make it just kind of a bit more neater. And does that go along with canon? I don't know. It's a bit of a fetch, but I don't care. Just like I'm not really that bothered that Ahsoka's Montrals have changed length, to be honest.
Well, that's good to know, and I'm glad I at least have been educated during this conversation. Montrals. Sounds like a city in Canada, right? Is that how you say it? Montreal.
I think so.
Something like that.
The Montreal Canadians.
Okay, so Matt, you're going with your headline moment being Ahsoka brought to life. Measurements of Montrals or not. We're not bringing that into the equation here. It all worked for you. Luke, what would be your headline moment?
Do you know what, Jamie? For me, it was all about Baby Yoda. I watched it again last night for a second time, as you do, and I'm going to watch it after this even. And for me, it was definitely just Baby Yoda, just learning the name Grogu. beautiful. And the way that interaction would happen between Mando when he said Grogu for the first time, and Baby's ears just kind of like move a little bit, and he looks up. I mean, it's just perfection. It's gorgeous. It's so nice to see that relationship just deepen even more. For me, the Ahsoka, just the triangle between the three was gorgeous. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, there were, I think, the child, Baby Yoda. Oh, there's so many names now. The subject. I can't keep up with all these names. And now there is an official name, but we'll come on to that in a moment. But yeah, I agree that the child was a bit of a star in this chapter, and he wasn't just there to be cute, which, by the way, he did, pull off yet again.
Right.
But we got a bit of backstory on the child. We've learnt, like all of us, he's a little bit damaged as well. There's it's not all this cute exterior. There's stuff going on inside, and there were those as you said, that kind of that building of the relationship between Grogu and Din. There were some very beautiful, sort of tender and quiet moments when they were back on the Razor Crest, when he was preparing to sort of say goodbye to Grogu. Particularly was and the score was wonderful, and the Yoda theme was kind of hinted at as well. But really, there were a lot of quiet moments, I thought, in this chapter, and the score was perfect. It was a quiet, eerie episode, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, man. And that was more obvious to me on second viewing, because at first viewing, you're just thinking, wow, they're diving right into this of Ahsoka. They're just going straight for it. Opening scene, white lightsabers, chopping down fools. It's, all fun and games. Second viewing, I was like, man, they're taking their time with this, and they're letting everything sink in. The training with the Rock, Grogu with the Rock, and Mando getting out the little silver gear stick ball thing. Brilliant. Really, really have a lot of time for this episode, and I tell you what, I think this is going to be really rewatchable for a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah, I think the last few episodes have been very rewatchable. And just while you brought up the name Grogu, is it growing on you? Are you gonna adopt this name now? Are you gonna stick to the child, to Baby Yoda? How are you gonna proceed with life now?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because how are Primark going to handle all the child T-shirts now? They're going to have to chuck those and get it. I don't know if they're going to put Grogu on the merchandise. I'm interested in that, but I don't know. I've watched it twice now, like Lukey Boy has as well. And I didn't mind the name of the first time. Obviously, it's a bit of a shock. I think Grogu, that's odd. Baby Yoda, isn't it? But
yeah, it's a shock, but it's not a shock in the sense you're expecting Alan or something. It's because you've got so used to Baby Yoda, the child.
Little baby Spencer.
That's it. That's it. Little nice down there. But no, I'm fine with it. It's grown on me. It's to the point now where my daughter, she's playing with her Baby Yoda toys. She now is used to the name Grogu, and I actually call them, go and get Grogu. Where's Grogu? So in that sense, it's assimilated very, very quickly.
I'd agree with that, man. I as soon as I heard it, I was down for it. I was like, yeah, makes sense. I'm sold on it. Sorry, there's just a bit of traffic outside. I don't live in the countryside.
It did sound like a tractor, I have to say. It sounded exactly like a tractor, and I know a tractor when I hear one.
It could have been a tricked out tractor, with neon on it and rims, spinners and everything. You never know. Where I live, I could imagine that actually. But no, the name I think it's fantastic. It suits him. I think it just sounds like a Star Wars name. It looks like a little baby's name. I was saying this on our recap. I was saying, man, little baby Grogu. Oh man, there's going to be so many pets called Grogu in the coming year. I think I really like it. What about you, Jamie?
No, I like it. No, like Matt, I was shocked at first. To be honest, I wasn't expecting so much detail. To be honest, so I say so soon. We're over halfway through a second season, but I was just not really prepared for details really on this mysterious character. I don't think the name will. I think the name will stick with the likes of us and people watching this video. I think think, to be honest, the Child, the official previous name, never stuck with the mainstream, the casual fans. You know, people were, you know, on Twitter, general kind of Twitter, I guess. You know, the normies, whatever you call them, they were calling it Baby Yoda. I think Baby Yoda will stick, kind of, you know, from a sort of mainstream view, but I guess eventually, you know, the fandom will adopt Grogu, and I was shocked as well, but it's cool, it works. You know, I wasn't expecting Alan either, so you know,
would have liked it.
Yeah, it would have been a different kind of shock, but I would have gone with it though. So what, I mean, you know, we haven't had a 10 from either of you for this chapter. Obviously, some of your listeners went well over a 10. Yes. And you, Matt, particularly said up front there were some things you didn't like about it. So I want to know from both of you now, what didn't you like about it, hey? Huh?
Oh, here we go. This is what don't at us here, or certainly not me. See, this is what I said. I liked the episode. So it's very strange to have to say I really dug this episode. Upon rewatching it, I was like, do you know what? This is quality. But I worry that the scope is getting too big to the point where it's not going to be the Mandalorian next season. It's just going to be the galaxy. Or, you know, there's too much. They're connecting a lot of things, which is great. And I love connective tissue. That's what I'm here for. But I just don't want them to lose sight of what the Mandalorian was about, which it was the original synopsis was it's a lone gunslinger in the lawless Outer Rim. That's what I love. And I like that they're peppering in these kind of bigger ideas. But at heart, I want it to remain Mando, Baby, and then, you know, the original gang that they had before. But if it does go big and wild, I would also say, brilliant. I can't wait. They go as big as they want. But in reality, I really would like them to keep it a little bit more isolated within their own little world as much as possible. And a lot of other people have had the same issue. But the template they seem to be following episode on episode now is very strict. It's very rigid. They're not going outside of the template that sees Mando go somewhere, you help me, I help you. At the end, you get the info. Here's where you go next. I really want certainly the last 2 episodes to change that up and just give us something a bit different going into the finale and the next season. But with the episode, not really an awful lot. A few direction issues here and there, but it's more about like the wider picture of where they might go from here.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the kind of blurring of the Mandalorian's universe, if you like, into other existing Star Wars, you know, timelines, characters, etc. That does seem to be. I'm kind of in the middle of it because I've made no secret that I haven't seen Rebels, and I've started Clone Wars. I'm working my way through it. So for me, I feel actually as in those sections of Star Wars, you know, not really having the knowledge of Ahsoka's full story, etc., Ezra and Thrawn in Rebels. For me, I think they've dealt with it pretty well. It's not alienated me in The Mandalorian so far, but I am starting to see, you know, 2 sides. Some not liking the fact it's blurring into other storylines and characters. And that could perhaps be, you know, because division exists in this fandom. Perhaps this could be The Mandalorian's first real kind of, you know, sticking point with the fandom. But on the other hand, part of me wonders if they're just actually, you know, these simply are cameos with Ahsoka, with Bo-Katan, and they're actually setting up other Disney Plus series.
I think for me, it's a mix of both of what you said. I'm not as bothered about it. I can definitely see some warning signs, or I can certainly understand why some people would see them or have those fears personally. But it's really refreshing to hear people like yourself, Jamie, say, you know, I'm not crazy invested in the other shows. Yeah. And to me, to be honest, Thrawn, just another character, doesn't really bother me. And I feel like it's going to be a bit like that for a lot of people, for most viewers of The Mandalorian. Okay. Do I think that there's going to be other shows jumping off of this? Yeah, I think now that was the plan all along. I was really skeptical going into this. I mean, we did a roundtable with Ken, and we were like, oh man, I'm not even sure if any of these are going to happen. And if they were going to happen, I think it's going to probably be Bo-Katan, because she's a Mando, kind of just makes sense. There are rumors. But no, we've got everything. We had Boba Fett. We've got Ahsoka. We've got Bo-Katan. And guess what? I've loved all of them. I've loved all of them, and I was skeptical. I was proven wrong. So that's how I'm kind of processing this at the moment. I just have faith in the guys behind this project. It's if the guys then doing the other projects, doing an Ahsoka show, doing a Bo-Katan show, whatever, will they be doing as a good job as what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are doing? That's my concern, because Dave and Jon, they get Star Wars. They get it. I'm not sure everyone does.
What so I mean, we've both kind of piggybacked onto to Matt's qualm, I guess, with chapter 13. Is there anything else that you would add to that for yourself there, Luke, that you didn't like from the episode?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think for me it was just a fun episode. It wasn't, I don't think it was flawless, because I don't think anything is flawless. But I think generally I really enjoyed it. I think people who have an understanding of the Ahsoka character and grew up watching Clone Wars and Rebels, and I'd make a point of Rebels, because the Ahsoka in this series is more like, or Mando, is a lot more like the Ahsoka in Rebels than the Ahsoka by the end of the Clone Wars or during the Clone Wars. So I think this is an episode for them, really. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's a high score. Maybe a few things could have been different, but it's very nitpicky, to be honest. It's nothing major. I think 8.5 is a solid score. And Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they're going to take that 8.5 and take it to the bakery and get some bread. They're going to love it.
Yeah, well, where next, I guess? Where next? What do you... I mean, I think pretty much every chapter, it's kind of ended with someone telling, and someone pointed this out in the comments of my initial review. It does seem to end each chapter with like, okay, now you've got to go to this planet and do this and find this person. We know where we're going. We know what planet he's going to. We know what's going to happen there pretty much. What are you expecting beyond that from the next chapter?
I'm expecting this next one to be very much a transitional episode. I think this season's episodes 7 and 8 will be, 15 and 16. That'll be. They're going to be like a double header, I think, like we got last year. So I reckon this next one will either be Mando en route to Tython to go to put Grogu on the Seeing Stone at the top of the Jedi Mountain. I think I've got all that right.
Very well with the names there, I think.
I think I've got that right. So when he plops him on that stone. But I think the next one's going to be transitional. They may stop off on the way to fill up, go to the old Galactic service station, get an overpriced Mackie D's. I don't know. I think it's going to be a quieter episode leading into 7 and 8. I think they're going to get to Tython on the second to last one. Gideon's going to show up, my boy, because he's tracking them, let's not forget. And then it's going to cause all hell on that. But I think this next one will be the calm before the storm. Where they're going, I've got no idea anymore. But I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Skywalker did turn up, just because they're throwing everybody in. But I know Luke wants him to come in. But I think the next one's going to be a quieter one.
You want him to come in, Luke, but do you think he'll come in? I mean, every other prediction has, as you said earlier, pretty much come true with this season. Do you think we'll actually get a de-aged Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian?
I think, short answer, yes. We're going to get him in The Mandalorian. I'm not sure if it's going to be this series. I think that's going to be something for the next season. And I'm on record as saying that from even before this season began. I've always been an advocate for a Skywalker cameo in The Mandalorian. I think it makes sense. And I think it makes sense for the long kind of term story of The Mandalorian. I always say to Matt, my ideal ending for this series in my head, and I'm talking like their complete series finale, would be Baby Yoda being dropped off with Rey and the new Jedi Order. I think with his age processing and stuff, I think he's going to be too young to get involved in the sequel trilogy. So I don't think there's going to be any dropping Baby Yoda off with Luke happily ever after, only to be killed by Kylo Ren in a few years. I don't think they're going to do that, but I don't think that negates the idea that a cheeky Skywalker is going to pop up.
Give them to the English Rose, Ray. Give them to the Daisy Ridley.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting. That's interesting. I've not thought about that before, because my assumption has been if he does go down the Jedi path, then it can only really be with Luke, and therefore we know that's not going to be a very nice ending for this much beloved character that kids also love. But then again, they've done it before with younglings, haven't they? In a so-called kids movie in The Phantom Menace, they have been slaughtered before, so. They could be slaughtered again, these younglings. Well, I presume they weren't they, in a sequel trilogy? But
oh yeah, they love it.
They love a good child massacre in this franchise.
The dark side, I'm telling you, they're naughty boys. Yeah,
but that would be a much. I've never thought about that. Yeah, him sort of bypassing Luke's Jedi Order and being dropped off with Rey. That would be a much nicer, happier ending. Yeah, for Grogu.
Yeah.
Anything you'd both like to add?
Well, you mentioned the score. I thought the score was wicked. I thought the score was quality. The way they got Ahsoka's theme in was Ludwig Göransson is an absolute king. He's absolutely smashing this new Star Wars sound, and he got incorporated the classic theme of Ahsoka and Yoda. And we've said it on the show, and I just wanted to hammer it home. They're really, really now building that father-son foundation with Din and Grogu and Baby Yoda. They're really kind of saying that this is a father and son bond. When he passed his test with the little silver ball, Mando's run over there like a proud dad. He's like, "Great job, kid, great job." And I was like, "What a man, what a Dadalorian." So I think they're really building on that to the point where I think the final episode, I think we may lose Baby Yoda. I don't mean like in an awful way. I think Gideon's going to take him, and we've got to spend the next 10 months worrying, because they're really, really hammering home that these two are inseparable. So what happens when they're gone?
I think you might be right there. I think we are going to be left with a dreadful cliffhanger. Luke, any final remarks?
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, guys. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be a cliffhanger. They're going to want us to come back and, really anticipate season 3. Personally, Jamie, I said this kind of like off air. I went, man, I am so glad The Mandalorian is here for the end of 2020. So for me, it's a bit more of a real world thing. It's come and it's delivered. For me, it's delivered. I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. And I'm just so happy that every Friday I wake up like a crazy person before everyone else, and I turn on Disney Plus. I'm watching something that really, it feels nostalgic. It feels new. It feels fresh. It's building on all this lore. It feels so Star Warsy, so Star Warsy. So for me, I'm just very, very grateful.
Well, I'm glad you're grateful. I'm glad, as you said, you're thoroughly enjoying it. Now, just remind us, if people want to thoroughly enjoy a Star Wars podcast, where should they go?
If they want to come for the Star Wars and stay for the sessions, StarWarsSessions.co.uk has got all the other information. So all of our shows are on there. Any other news we drop about what's happened with us and the show. Any podcast platform, so like Luke mentioned, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, we're on there, and we are building up a little YouTube channel as well. So if you do enjoy a bit of the old YouTube, all of our episodes, audio only, are up there. So and online, we're on social, aren't we, Lukey boy?
Yes, mate. At Star Wars Sessions, mostly on the socials. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Apart from Twitter, we are at Star Wars Session, because they don't let us have the S at the end. No. Because I don't know why. They just don't like us for some reason. But there we go. We're online. Come chat to us. Chat to us and talk about the wars to us, because we love chatting the wars.
Yes.
They do. And I'll link to as much of what you just said as I possibly can. I don't know if there's a character limit in the YouTube video description, but I'll link as much as I can in that description so people can go and find you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Luke from Star Wars Sessions, for joining me for this week's The Mando debrief. I think we're sticking with that. Thank you as well for watching, and I'll be back next Friday with another quick response review. It's not a reaction video. And then we'll do another debrief as well a few days after that. So thank you for watching, and also thank you to all Patreon members as well. All right, that's it.